Hello, greetings, and welcome to Awake in the Age of Revealing. This is Doug Michael. I want to real quickly say thank you to all of my new subscribers and to all of my subscribers that have been following these videos and listening and sharing with your friends and loved ones. I truly, deeply appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, for a long time, I wanted to begin to put forward this type of information that's solution-oriented. And I felt that it was a good idea to lay the groundwork by exposing a lot of the aspects of the control paradigm, some of the players and the techniques that they use to control humanity. And I was real worried that that this type of information with the advanced level of topics that we're talking about was going to push a lot of people away, and the opposite's been true. I'm very, very grateful for that. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased and very appreciative of all of the positive feedback and the great comments. I really do appreciate them. I cannot possibly get to all of them. So if I missed your comment, please don't take it personally. I do appreciate the positive feedback, the encouragement, the support, and people's insights that they're sharing on their journey to the second cognition. I truly do appreciate it. Again, if I don't get to yours, don't take it personally. It's just becoming impossible to get to all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, this video is another offering about why we often have problems advancing ourselves. And the topic of this presentation is understanding self-doubt. I want to address this topic because it is a necessary element we each have to eventually overcome as we move our consciousness into the second cognition. Now, in my video, Maintaining the Focus to Advance, I touched upon the issue of doubt near the end of that presentation. I'm going to expand on the issue of self-doubt in this video and provide more explanations about what we all have to wrestle with as we move forward into our cognitive advancement. Anyone who has been pursuing spirituality finds themselves continually filled with self-doubt. I talked about the frustration we feel when we try to use fallacious spiritual beliefs like physical manifestations, and how we are always more ready to doubt ourselves than we are willing to question the belief itself for being in error. This video is also going to discuss manifestation in a more realistic manner than what is presently being sold to the public, through books like The Secret or various Hollywood motion pictures. If we look at our global cultures with all honesty, from the point of view of an observer, then we have to recognize that we are all indoctrinated to doubt ourselves and allow others who we presume are more qualified than we are to rule our lives. It is this externalization of personal power, coupled with the erroneous and quite dangerous belief in external authority. Now, I realize that I've pointed this out before in some of my earlier presentations, but to reiterate, the etymological root of the word authority comes from the Latin auctor, which means author or master, and auctoritatem, which means command or influence. So, authority means command or influence of a master or author. This means that if there is any external authority, that you are commanded, that someone or something else is the author of your experience, whether it is a person in some sort of decision-making position or a belief system that you give your allegiance to. This is why I have claimed time and again that you must be your own authority, your own master, the author of your own play. If we give it away to external powers, then someone else will write the script and the play will end in tragedy. As discussed in my video, The Roots of Spiritual Frustration, we often approach spirit studies with a view towards an instant fix. We live in an instant gratification culture, and many people bring this attitude into spiritual pursuits. Along with the frustration noted in that presentation comes the ego and its self-doubt. The ego part of us is infinitely insecure and is wholly willing to doubt itself more than it will doubt its authority figures or the doctrines they profess. As you move forward on your path to the second cognition, self-doubt is going to be one of your most tireless adversaries. To reiterate another point I've made before, the word ego gets thrown around, and I think that so few have a deep understanding of what it is and how it manifests. The ego level of cognition wears many masks and takes on many permutations. It is a master of disguises, a shape-shifting chameleon. It winds its way through the conscious and subconscious on levels that are so deeply ingrained that its habits and appearances become unrecognizable. When most people hear the word ego, they immediately think of the puffed up, arrogant, self-obsessed narcissist who thinks that his or her shit doesn't stink, and that's one way the ego presents itself. However, the poor me victim that always needs to be reassured that everything is okay, the sympathy junkie, is just as much a prisoner of the ego as the me-oriented jackass. Self-doubt is such a deeply ingrained ego habit that it's one of the last aspects of ego that we ultimately have to overcome. Even though we may be able to set aside the ego itself, getting rid of its programmed habits takes much longer to remove from our psyche. Along with self-doubt, we also have a supreme lack of self-trust, and with the new paradigm, one must develop not only self-trust, but trust in a process for which we can generally see no immediate evidence. Because the ego demands some form of proof, usually coming from one authority figure or another, or tangible evidence provided through materialistic scientific measurement, when we are talking about new energies and new perceptions of reality, doubt is generally the first thing that arises in our minds. Many of the researchers into the consortium's spiritual dogmas have reached the conclusion that virtually all of it is bullshit, that these contrived spiritual beliefs are nothing but lures or snares to capture our imagination and get us to keep hanging our hopes on things that will never happen in the end. When we are faced with information, such as that presented in the New Paradigm books, we have already developed a serious sense of skepticism and doubt. Those who have been on this path the longest and who have moved in and out of these false traditions seeking spiritual truth are immediately suspect when they hear these new paradigm teachings and are justifiably skeptical, doubting whether they are even true or just another consortium spiritual pipe dream. The inorganic consortium has so effectively worked to hijack the truth and bend it to their own purposes that it makes accepting the truth about the new paradigm hard to swallow. It sounds like just another wishful thinking dogma. When we approach these new paradigm ideas with doubt, we are already erecting cognitive barriers that serve to prevent us from seeing them manifest in our lives. Focus and self-trust are required to succeed in this process of cognitive advancement. You are invited to learn to trust yourself, and through doing so, you will also learn to trust the processes presented in those works. Endall and Mrs. Beall also put the same emphasis on learning self-trust and personal autonomy in their books. Where the new paradigm books often offer only generalized overviews, Beall's books provide more comprehensive details and workable tools to achieve these generalized goals presented in the new paradigm books. In many personal conversations with Endall, he told me that in his years of spiritual research that he had never encountered the new paradigm books. I have no reason whatsoever to disbelieve him based on our subsequent conversations after I shared the material with him, but we are both amazed to discover through these conversations how the messages in the New Paradigm books so closely mirror the teachings in his books and many of my own perspectives as well. When I make this admission, probably the main reaction in the minds of the listeners is, I doubt that, it's too contrived. Now, this is a natural ego response based on our indoctrinated habits of self-doubt and, doubt in general within the present cultural constraints. When we are initially confronted with the ideas in the New Paradigm books as well as those presented in Beall's books and in these video presentations, our immediate response is skepticism because these ideas so challenge our current perception of reality. After all, these books are proposing an idea for a reality that we can't see in our present perception of reality. Our first reaction is disbelief and doubt because it all sounds just too weird to be true. Many followers of the New Age teachings are familiar with the concept that you create your own reality. What most of these people have not yet figured out is that an ego creating reality and a more spiritually cognitive individual doing the same thing are light years apart. Tons of these New Age believers keep trying to create their own reality, but they just can't seem to get it right. So here again, self-doubt enters into the cognitive equation because these people feel that they're just not getting it right because they don't see their reality changing. In Book 2 of the New Paradigm series, Embracing the Rainbow, It fully explains why these first cognition exercises in trying to create your own reality continue to fail. The personal reality is enveloped within local, regional, state, national, and global realities that are each focused on greater agendas and are each a more encompassing reality. It is the purpose of the purposeful negative planners to encompass and blend these multiple realities into one blended focus with one agenda, theirs. Mankind can avoid participation in an experience of a collapsing dimensional reality by creating its own new experience within the negative plan. It is possible to do this through participation of the creation of the new paradigm. Each may participate in bringing forth its unknown and yet to be created layers of encompassing new realities. Without the knowledge of the magnitude and power of this project, the negative planners cannot prevent it. If the desire, commitment, and resolve to bring it forth is present and active in the necessary number of humans. There is no way they can control a human's ability to focus on the creation of a new reality unless the human allows their thought process to be overwhelmed. Granted, it will take commitment and resolve, but the potentiality to do this is present in all, except those with advanced brain deterioration. In a similar manner, Mrs. Beall discusses manifestation in her book The Energy Experience and states that, remember, you are not the only person in this world or in this universe. If your wants and desires can only come to fruition by the choices of others, then your intent may not come to fruition at all. And in another passage she advises, keep your intent reasonable. If you're going to set your intent on something, make sure it is something that is reasonable and make sure you do your part to make sure that it happens, such as don't put it out there and wait for it to come knocking on your door. I've found for myself that both presentations give us a greater clue about manifesting realities that most people would either look away from because of self-doubt or because these ideas are misunderstood from their own misperceptions. The consortium has made sure that controlled humans gain an understanding of the concept of manifestation, knowing full well an overblown ego would set manifestation attempts on unreasonable goals, which would in turn support the self-doubt of the underlying spirit when it doesn't manifest. By creating these unreachable manifestation desires, they create a situation of doubt when someone tries to tell people to tailor those unreachable goals into a more reasonable manifestation. In other words, don't shoot for the moon until you have learned how to walk when discovering how manifestation really works. The attempt at manifestation by those mired within the first cognition primarily focuses on material gains and ego desires that are doomed to failure from the start. What these passages reveal to us is that the first cognition attempts by people to create their own reality is controlled by the larger consensus realities. When trying to create their own reality, most people are trying to create a reality within one or all of the pre-established definitions of consensus reality dictated by the controllers. It is these predetermined definitions of reality, established by the controllers themselves, that create an overshadowing and overpowering reality created in which first cognition thinkers are trying to create their reality. In Demystifying the Mystical, Endall made a similar observation when he wrote, "This is consensus reality. It is a reality that we all more or less agree with and in which our egos firmly reside and whose existence the ego will fight vehemently to protect. But one must understand there is no one single consensus reality. Consensus realities can be local, national, religious, cultural, and global. The consensus reality of the Muslims is not the same as the consensus reality of the Christians or the communists or the capitalists. There are two forms of consensus reality. One is that which we are taught is true, and then there is the consensus reality of shared experiences, like typhoon, tornado, or hurricane victims. The taught realities are the ones I ask the reader to question, for it is the taught realities that have led to your conscious ego programming. Reality by experience has substantially more merit than anything taught by the powers that be. When I talk about challenging taught experiences, I'm not talking about skills learned through tradesmanship, for those are skills learned through subsequent experience. The incessant acceptance of presumed facts because we have been told they are facts, and history as we are taught it and believe it, is one of the greatest fallacies of the illusion that our egos all embrace. When we can finally realize that all of these first cognition attempts to alter one's individual reality while operating within consortium-created consensus realities never produces results, then we realize why these folks working so hard to change their reality can't make any headway in the process. The energies of the overall consensus realities are an impediment to creating anything within that system of control. Trying to create your individual reality when compared to the overall energetic nature of the consensus realities is completely shut down within that system. Your energies are only one small voice in the wilderness in comparison to billions of others who remain lodged in the fabricated consensus realities, and you therefore have absolutely no chance at success so long as you are trying to buck this system of control. The New Paradigm books offer us the solution to this problem, and that is to create a new energetic reality outside all of these consensus realities of control. Working within the first cognition paradigm is always going to leave us shackled so long as we are trying to create an individual reality within such a powerhouse of control working against us. By trying to create your own reality within that first cognition consensus paradigm, you are literally trying to shovel shit with a teaspoon against a typhoon of opposing energies. The new paradigm is what Endall describes as the second cognition state of conscious awareness. The controllers can't remotely perceive this level of human cognition, so there's absolutely nothing they can offer to control or stop it. The second cognition goes far beyond their own limited first cognition perceptions of reality. So when you step into the energies of the new paradigm, you're no longer stuck with that teaspoon to try to create your own reality within that typhoon of first cognition control. We find a clear and open pathway for human advancement beyond the power of the controllers to even comprehend, and this includes the inorganic intelligences who have been running the show for ages. If they can't perceive the second cognition state of awareness to begin with, then how can they control it? The fact is that they can't, and this is their greatest fear. In order to transcend our personal perceptual barriers in perceiving this scenario, we are going to have to overcome our own self-doubt to make the process a reality. When we can embrace the possibility of the new paradigm scenario, then it opens the door to the realization that we no longer have to rage against the consortium energetic machine to make this happen. In essence, we are going to do an end run around all their systems of control to create a new reality, and we are no longer fighting an uphill battle against insurmountable odds. Their systems of control will no longer provide any kind of energetic impediment to the reality we are creating because they represent two different energetic frequencies. We have to gain the wisdom to let them have their playground to do with as they will, for there's nothing we can really do to stop their destructive juggernaut other than observe it as it implodes and collapses in upon itself. The New Paradigm books have been very explicit in explaining this. In the Becoming book, book 3 in the trilogy, we're instructed, the word transcend means to rise above, transform, excel. In order to continue on their path of evolution, humanity must transcend this current experience. To do that, it must rise above those that would thwart that natural progress. Because thought is the basis of creation, it then becomes apparent that mankind must think in a way that is above and beyond their jailers, using a transformative conceptual pattern as their basis of intent. This could be further assisted if variations appear in humanity's behavior pattern that is inconsistent with what is expected to be their reaction to the programmed plan of control. Variations in humanity's projected stereotype behavior cause attention to shift away from the concentration needed to hold their expanding pattern in place. This then would weaken their ability to hold their fragile model in form. And make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, their tyrannical model of control is fragile. It's hanging on by a fucking thread. Personal experience through my own stepping into the second cognition has shown me the first cognition reality for what it is. It has also brought me the profound revelation that I am no longer a contributor to that reality. My old perception of reality has changed. I can see that reality for all the sordid turmoil it represents, and I'm glad that I am no longer a slave to that first cognition energy vortex. I am aware of what is happening in that energetic world, but it no longer plagues my own consciousness with the doubts and fears that living in that reality virtually mandates of everyone who lives there. In the truest sense of the word, my personal reality has changed for the better. Embracing the Rainbow explains it like this. There is a point of personal decision that must be reached by each individual that chooses to become involved in this project. It must be understood that once the commitment is made, it will change the perspective, the way in which the experience of situations and relationships are comprehended. If the commitment is real, it will be as if you are observing from a greater perspective. It will be as if there is a split reality. The daily experience will be the same, yet an observational dimension will seem to be added. The observation mode will be experienced as an ability to understand how various past and present knowledge and experience fit into a fluid puzzle picture. There will be a realization that reality as known has changed. This passage is being completely truthful when it says that it's like a split reality. This is not an allegory. It is a fact that you will perceive when you cross that threshold into the second cognition state of awareness and step into the energies of the new paradigm yourself. It is literally like walking in two worlds. I am speaking from personal experience in this matter, and I am not alone in perceiving this split energetic reality. To participate, you are going to have to make a conscious decision to do so. It is not going to be given to you by some concept of higher authority or divine entity, nor will it be forced upon you. You have to give up all self-doubt in order to realize this for yourself. And make no mistake, the ego is going to throw doubt at you at every turn and question your self-trust. If you can't transcend doubt and find self-trust, then your own doubt is going to serve as a handicap for achieving your goal. Trust and doubt work at counter purposes. Doubt clouds intent, and your intent to participate must override any and all doubts that you can succeed. You have to make that commitment to yourself, and then you have to maintain the focus that you will succeed in the face of self-doubt if you want to experience the new paradigm for yourself. The second cognition is a reality. It only waits for those with the impeccability and focus of purpose to make it energetically stronger. If you desire this, you have it within you to change your own reality. Changing your reality doesn't mean you magically remove yourself from the planet. It means that you function from a higher level of perceptual awareness and energetic advancement. The world around you will not physically change, but your perception of it, and therefore your reality, will change. As the foregoing passage relates, as you move toward this shift in consciousness, your perspective is going to change. Each of these video presentations is offered with the intent that you can make these changes within yourself. Each of these presentations offers insights that you may not have contemplated before, and as you watch them and digest the information they contain, your own perspective should alter accordingly, and you can start to see the world around you in a different light. Your perception of the world should change as you find more understanding from the information offered. In all honesty, my subscribers and viewers are getting a fast-track presentation of information that took us decades to sort out. Between the two of us, we're talking about 50 years of in-depth research. A lot of this information may well rock your world, but that is how perceptions are altered. One does not change their reality by continuing to embrace the old one. If you truly desire change, then it is you that is going to have to change, right? Don't expect the world to change first and then come knocking on your door to tell you that you can step into a new reality without doing a damn thing to make it happen, right? Yes? Oh, hi, it's a new reality. You want to join us? Oh, sure. No, it's not going to work that way, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing we have any control over to change in the world is ourselves and our consciousness. So the burden is on each individual to make that change. When we change ourselves, we change our cognitive perceptions, our reality, and therefore the world. When we can finally come to the realization that creating our own reality has nothing to do with magical manifestation by creating things in the physical world, but that manifesting your own reality amounts to advancing your consciousness, then creating your own reality and manifesting it takes on a more positive and realistic meaning. When we reach this understanding, is it any wonder that the consortium has done everything in its power to prevent us from understanding these truths? They utterly fear what we can become as a species because they can't control it. And this is exactly why they have worked so feverishly to prevent us from discovering our potential through developing their false political, religious, and spiritual doctrines and forcing our egos to believe all their bullshit. Beat the ego, and you transcend all of their systems of control, because all of those systems of control are born out of ego consciousness, ladies and gentlemen. Another thing that I've personally noticed in my experiences is that the consortium, with their perverse addiction to tyranny, vibrate at a much lower rate of frequency than those who are truly human. This is the reason for all of these systems of control, to keep humanity vibrationally at a much lower rate of frequency than it can currently aspire to, and to keep the anchor of the ego firmly in place, thereby maintaining that low state of vibration. No mystical or magical process is going to raise that level of vibration for us, although there are energies present that can assist in that process if we take on the personal responsibility to do this for ourselves. Flat-out refusal to rise to this challenge will cause breakdown and only ensure tyranny and destruction. Making a conscious decision to be a part of the process of stepping into the glory of what we may become as a species is what will bring true freedom and an existence that humanity on this planet has never known before. And of course, that all begins with you and with each individual willing to step into the unknown and spearhead the journey into the new paradigm of human consciousness and experience. The ball is in your court. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for giving me your time, for taking the time to listen to Awake in the Age of Revealing. I'm grateful. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate all the subscribers and all the positive feedback and encouragement. We're just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate any and all that take the time to consciously push forward in their cognitive advancement, to open their minds, and to search for the truth. Thank you once again for listening to Awake in the Age of Revealing. This is Douglas Michael, and until next time, walk in peace.